The Keokuk County Sheriff's Office is taking applications for a full-time jailer dispatcher. The position requires a high school diploma or equivalent. Applications for employment can be picked up at the Keokuk County Sheriff's Office anytime or go online at www.keokukcounty.iowa.gov and download an application form. The full-time position will include Keokuk County's benefit package. Starting wage is $23 per hour and could be higher depending on experience. Application deadline is Friday, August 30th at 4 p.m. or until filled. Keokuk County is an equal opportunity employer. Central Empire Wrestling presents Bridge City Slam 6 live Saturday, September 7th at the Bridgeview Center in Ottumwa. Come see Jake the Snake Roberts, Buff Bagwell, former WWE Tag Team Champions Demolition, Real One Enzo Amore, The Powers of Pain, The Boogeyman, Snitsky, Jordan Grace, Cameron Brene, and the stars of CEW. Tickets start at just $20 and include the Fan Fest from 4 to 7 p.m. Get your tickets through Ticketmaster or at the Bridgeview Center in Ottumwa. It's Bridge City Slam 6, live Saturday, September 7th at the Bridgeview Center in Ottumwa. Watch Pekin Panther football live right here this fall on Steve Shuttler Media, Facebook, and YouTube with live announcers and an updated scoreboard, plus an area scoreboard to keep you updated on other schools of interest. It's Pekin Panther football live right here on Steve Shuttler Media starting Friday, August 30th. All righty, welcome in for the sports section. We are live at Brothers Market here in downtown Sigourney on an absolutely fabulous Saturday morning on the square in Sigourney. Again, Brothers Market, always our host venue for the sports section. And, of course, we're going to dive into high school football today, as last night was the big kickoff for the high school football season. And we have got a big show lined up for you today. Later on today, we're going to be talking to Sigourney Keota's Jared Jensen. We're also going to be having EBF's Ryan Jackson in to talk about their games. And we're going to start off this morning with our fall host, Andy McGuire. He has taken over our full-time fall duties this year, and we're talking football this morning with head Pekin football coach Clint Weber. Andy, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thanks, Steve. Good morning, Coach Weber. How are you this morning?
Good, how are you?
Great, thanks. So we've got the pumpkin spice lattes flowing, and it's fall season right around the corner here, and Pekin Panther football kicked off last night. Tell us who your opponent was and how you did.
Yeah, we played Cardinal last night, and we got a big win, and we had a lot of kids that got in the game last night, and we're just happy with getting off to a solid start this year. It's always my challenge to our team to not to sputter when you get right out the gate, and I felt like we got off to the start that we wanted to.
Right, yeah. You put up 76 points on Cardinal last night. I know that they're going through some what I would call rebuild. You know, they've had a lot of turnover. I think a new coaching staff this year, and you put 76 on them. What do you take away from a game where you put 76 on an opponent? Obviously, you're able to rotate a lot of different guys in. What did you see last night from your team that you can build off of?
Start with defense, because that's where it's all at. And, we gave up a few first downs and early, but, I think first downs we gave up was under 5 total in the game, including the maybe late. They surpassed that a little bit, but we're just big on not giving up an inch on defense. And anytime you can get quick stops on defense, I feel like it gets your offense right back out there. It also takes the pressure off the offense to have to score so consistently. So, a lot of quick trips for the defense on the field last night, but it's just good to give all of our guys offensive touches, and we spread the ball around nicely, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking at some of the stats that were on Bound this morning, and it looked like you had a really balanced rushing attack. Specifically, I think you only had maybe 6 pass attempts, something like that, not very many. And I think you guys like to distribute the ball, passing, running, that whole balanced attack. But you got a lot of different guys touch the ball, running the ball. Can you talk about your backs and how they did?
Yeah. I'll start off with Nolan Glick, number 10. He was a split out for us last year, and after the state track meet last May, I looked at I don't know if I looked at my wife or who it was, and I said he's going to be a running back now. And he's got the jets. He used his speed to run around a lot of things last night, and he used well over 100 yards. I think he ended up with 4 or 5 touchdowns, somewhere in there. And then Will Adam, he's our guy at quarterback. He's more of the make you miss type guy, and he had a lot of circus runs last night that just able to pile the yards up. And then we had other backs that had great touches and ground some hard yards out.
Yeah, absolutely. I did see Nolan led all rushers, and I'm not going to share stats. We're not here to talk specific numbers, but it looked really solid from, like you say, Will Adam, Nolan Glick, and some of these other guys. So I'm sure you're excited to have that stable of backs. You're going to have options through the rest of the season with those guys. But talking about the passing game and the receiving game, Will Adam is your senior. He's your leader on your team. I think you would agree with that. Can you talk about his play last night when he wasn't slinging the ball and what he was able to bring to that team?
Yeah, he's the quarterback on defense as much as he on offense. He calls the defense. He directs all the traffic on our back seven in terms of coverage. And Will's just a guy that, my biggest challenge of him to grow this year was to be able to flip the switch from composure on offense to a high level intensity on defense. He gets really wound up on defense, which is great. And we actually take him off the field for special teams this year because it just allows him to, visit with the O coordinator or D coordinator, depending on which way we're going, and just revisit reminders for him. It's such a tough job to go from quarterback to being the composed one to defense is your hair on fire a little more. So he's just such an intense player, and he defines what our program's about in terms of work ethic. Never letting things get flat in practice, and it's special to have a leader like him.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're not heartbroken to have little brother Henry Adam on the team as well. I've heard that maybe his personality isn't quite the same as Will's. Can you speak to that?
Henry wants to run through you, and Will wants to run around you. But last night, after our first 2-point conversion, Will is not afraid to run through someone either on that sweep play. But Henry is a little more quieter than Will, and he's shorter. He's a little bit stockier, and he's super physical. So in some ways they're a lot alike, and in other ways they're polar opposites. It's fun to see them get after each other in practice some days, though.
Oh yeah, for brothers for sure, right?
Yes.
So I was looking down the roster too, and one of the things that I love about Steve Shetler's show on Saturday mornings is talking about these kids. As a parent of a player, I was always waiting to hear my kid's name. So, one of the things that I wanted to do when I assumed this role was to talk about some of the kids that maybe don't hear their names, on the radio or read it in a newspaper or see it on TV or on Shetler Media. Why don't we talk about the offensive line, maybe your center, your guards, your tackles. Can you run me down who those guys are and how they played last night?
Absolutely. We got Isaac Sylvester. He's our left tackle. He's something special too. And he didn't play the whole game. He's been battling a little bit of knee injury. I don't want to call it an injury, but just nagging knee issue. But he's our DN and O-line left tackle. Caden Bender's another one. He's an incredible leader by example. He's got great size and strength. He's a defensive tackle as well. Brant Zarin, as a sophomore, started last night at center. That's a big deal, playing center and being a starter, and really his first game of varsity football was last night. And Hudson Deitch is knowing that kind of subbed in when Isaac had to take a break. He jumped into guard and Caden slid the tackle, but another wrestler type guy that belongs in the trenches. And then Cal Miller and Alton Williams, both defensive line starters and offensive line starters. They're the quiet ones, but they talk with their pads. And those five, they just set the tone on the defensive line on a daily basis, and then offensive line they've grown so much in terms of pass pro and run blocking, and there's more guys. Bo Latcham's another guy that got in on the D line. He played quite a bit last night. He's a guy that doesn't start, probably don't hear his name much, but did a pretty good job, and there's always more to speak of.
Yeah, thanks for bringing those guys out. I was a lineman, so big uglies out there, respect. At SK, you were predominantly the defensive coordinator. Coach, do you find yourself more defensive-minded, offensive-minded? Obviously, you have to play both fiddles, being the head coach down at Pekin, but does defense still ring true to your heart here?
It does. I told the radio guy last night, like, we start with defense. We practice as much defense, if not more defense, than offense. Again, if you can limit teams to scoring points, your offense can play more relaxed and looser. And any times an offense can be loose, I just think they play better. But also, I've had to get a little more geared with offense. We made a significant change last year into more of a power run spread game versus what we were doing here. And I've got two great coordinators, Chris Gentry, Gunnar Mose. They've not been selfish, and I've tried to not be selfish of finding that common ground. Chris calls the defense just how I would, and I have so much fun that I can just coach fundamentals of defense in the game versus have to worry about calling plays. And then same thing on offense. We found the perfect blend for the style of athletes we have, and it's a lot of fun. We were able. I just felt like our ability to pass has allowed us, if we have to pass on first down, it's not strange. Or we need to handle a rush where we run a lot of screen game. It's not a secret. So those things have geared me more towards offense as well. But I have a lot of fun just working both sides of the ball. And I was a big special teams guy in high school, so I get maybe a little more involved with that than I do in some areas.
Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of parallels between the SK program and the Pekin program. We're used to having the backyard brawl. The two programs haven't played each other in recent years, so this interview is maybe more of a backyard or patio beers, that sort of thing. But I was watching through the summer. You guys did Simpson Camp. You guys did Camp Dodge. You've sprinkled in some different things that SK does not do. I was watching some moms tackle players. That looked like a lot of fun. I see that you're building community support there. How big is that in terms of bringing Pekin back to what success they'd been used to having in the past?
Yeah, Jared and I talk a lot, and we both would say without a support system that's top tier, it's going to be tough to have a successful football program. And our parents are just exponential in terms of support right now. So that's the biggest thing. I think there's a band of coaches around the area that do a lot of things the same. But yeah, Jared and I, we were Camp Dodge guys, Simpson Camp guys. So it is there's a lot of things that are carbon copy between programs. But I think the big thing is both teams are so committed to not overdoing it in the summer programs and off-season programs, but making sure that you're not just at the minimum of what's required to be successful. And that's weight room, that's off-season workouts, preseason workouts in the summer, hosting community type things, and just getting everybody behind the same thing and understanding results aren't instant. My first year we were 0-8 down there, and then 3-5, 6-2, 6-3 last year. And then, I hope that we can have a successful year this year to, keep going.
Right. Yeah. You guys have had a lot of success building into what you want to be. Where do you see the season going? What are your goals? Obviously, I'm sure a district title is on the whiteboard in the locker room. How far can you see? How far do you want to take this team?
I want to get to 2-0 first. That's my first thing. It really is, and really all we're focused on is Monday's film session. But yeah, realistically, our goal is to win more games than we did the last year. But I'm not a big put a numbers guy on things. Our goal is to keep our kids healthy, make sure they have a rich experience, and keep our culture going. And those three things, I think, will drive the results. Coach Howard always used to tell us, do the things you've been coached to do and worry about your job, and winning or losing will take care of itself. And I just talked to him yesterday. It's just something that's ongoing in your mind about how you handle a team approach to athletics.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one game at a time. Who's your opponent next week, and what's your next week look like as far as preparation goes?
We play Van Buren. They have Isaac Leffler at quarterback. He's a really good athlete. Makes me nervous. And, in terms of preparation, Monday, even though it's Labor Day, we'll still do a film session. We'll actually give the coaches Sunday off, and we'll meet early on Monday. And kids will come in at 5, and we'll work on film. and probably a little bit of weight room conditioning, some formation recognition stuff for defense. And Tuesday will be a normal practice. Our JV plays Cardinal on Tuesday, which is a day later, so we'll have to manage that battle a little bit about how our varsity can get good reps in practice. And then Wednesday's another day, normal practice, and then Thursday will be run through, But we're at home again against Van Buren, so home field advantage is always a good thing.
All right, Coach, thanks for chatting this morning. Best of luck to you next week, and hopefully next Saturday we'll be talking about another win.
Thanks for having me.
You betcha.
All right, and of course you can hear and watch Pekin football all season long here on Steve Shetler Media. We had our debut broadcast last night, and things from a technical standpoint went great, and we appreciate the folks from Pekin for letting us in this year to do football this fall and basketball coming up later on this year. Now, on your screen right now, you're seeing our Daisy Dew Landscaping Pekin player of the game from last night's game. That was Will Adam. You guys were talking about him. Will had a great game last night, and I believe, unofficially, according to our stats from last night, Will had 4 touchdowns, or was involved at least in 4 touchdowns. So the Daisy Dew Landscaping Pekin player of the game from last night's broadcast here on Steve Shetler Media. Of course, we are broadcasting live this morning from Brothers Market in downtown Sigourney, where savings are made simple. You can go to shopbrothersmarket.com. For digital coupons, you can earn rewards, deal of the week, shopping deals, and more. Get the app as well. It's a smart way to shop. Brothers Market, our host venue and sponsor of the sports section here on Steve Shetler Media. Now, up next, we have Eddyville Blakesburg Fremont coach Ryan Jackson. And Ryan just... you emailed me, Ryan. You said you were going to be in the area this morning, hanging out here around the Sigourney area, so you wanted to be on the show. So welcome, Ryan. Andy, take it away.
Morning, Ryan Jackson. How are you today?
Not doing too bad.
Good deal. So Eddyville Blakesburg Fremont Rockets took on North Mahaska Warhawks last night. How'd the game go? I know it didn't turn out the way that the Rockets wanted, but why don't you tell our listeners how that went and what your thoughts were?
We came out pretty good at first, but kind of got popped in the mouth a little bit. Didn't recover. A lot of young guys that we have. There's a point we had 90% of our defense was a freshman or a sophomore. So a lot of turnover after losing 15 seniors last year. So not really the way we wanted to go, but there were some good things that our offense defense showed up throughout the game that we can build on.
Yeah, absolutely. I was down at the game last year when SK Cobras took on EBF, and I was watching the game. I thought, boy, these guys have a lot of pieces, a lot of components to build a winning program, to return EBF to maybe what had been a few years back, with those winning records. But you did lose a lot, and you do have a lot of young guys. Can you talk about what you expect this season to be in terms of reestablishing, that mantra, that swagger to get to where you want to be?
Yeah, the biggest thing is we just want to be hard hitting. We want to walk away every time having the other team go, man, they hit hard. We can start there and just be physical and do our job right. Those little things will come as far as learning the speed of the game with some of the younger guys. We had some freshmen step up last night that played really well as our linebacker. We were actually down our senior linebacker last night, so that kind of took a hit. But we had a couple of freshmen step into spots that helped out a lot, get in the backfield, made a move. Our biggest thing is just trying to find our identity of where we want to go as the season goes on, game by game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was telling Coach Weber right before you got here, I was a lineman in school. I love line. I love ugly play. Not that those big uglies are ugly. I know you guys have good faces, maybe not. So I don't want to disrespect. No disrespect meant. But I want to talk about your line. I want to talk about the guys that maybe don't get the love that some of these quarterbacks, some of these running backs get. I know Corbin Padgett's dad. Corbin Padgett's big boy. Yep. He moves people around. Tell me about your line. Tell me about Corbin and the rest of the boys on the line.
The line is probably the one thing that we've tried to look at the most because we didn't lose as much because a kid like Corbin, Kale Patzel were freshmen last year and started and played every game. So that's kind of the pieces that we could kind of start with that we didn't lose quite as much as far as playing time. We had Striker Leddington, he's a wrestler, came back out this year, wasn't out last year, so a guy who's played football in the system back, that's going to help a little bit. And then a couple other freshmen on the freshman, sophomore, that's going to step in and kind of help out. But that's where we've that's that's where our game's going to go. We try to run the ball like many teams do, and having those big guys up there really help a lot, even though they don't get that love. And same thing with defense. I call it defensive side, but having those guys get off the ball, do their jobs, knowing what's going on, but also be able to just shove people around. Corbin's really fine-tuned over the summer, worked in some camps to try to get better at what he does.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what his career brings. You know, as a freshman last year, I watched him. I thought, man, this kid does not play like a freshman. He's a big kid, strong kid, and you find those techniques, those fine points, things that most people don't see. The sky's the limit for that guy, in my opinion. You talked about wrestling. How big is wrestling as far as translation goes to football? Are you a big wrestling advocate? What are your thoughts there?
I don't work with wrestling, but as far as wrestling, we try to make sure the boys are doing both. A lot of the freshmen coming up, into Kenton Stout, Simon Bettis, Caden Kirkpatrick, those guys are all wrestlers. And it's really, those are the same guys who are stepping up on the football field as far as going to get that playing time, going to get that. And I think they just have to be physical and hit. And I think it comes down to some of that wrestling stuff. Also the hard work of the wrestling side of stuff. It's not always easy to be a wrestler. So I love seeing the wrestlers come out and the football players go wrestle, so kind of getting both ways. Dimitri's done a good job of having a good program coming up as far as wrestling. So I think it's going to be great for both programs as the future goes.
Yeah, the score last night of 43-0. If you're the casual football fan or maybe somebody that doesn't watch the intricacies of the game, you might think that that's really a tough loss. But as a coach or maybe as somebody a little bit more in tune, 43-0 really might not mean much in terms of how much your team grows during that game or as they prepare for it. How do you feel your team is preparing? How do you think the mindset is? Are those guys locked in and ready to go and continue on with the season, or how did you end up the game last night?
I think the biggest thing was just getting to our spots a little quicker. As I said, a lot of younger guys on the field, to play for halftime. We tipped the ball, but they ended up catching it and getting a 20-yard run for a touchdown. Our special teams struggled a little bit. I kind of gave the field position was probably a bigger problem with some of that stuff than really how we played as far as trying to get flipped the field. We didn't get it flipped quite as well as we wanted to. So giving the short fields on the defensive side adds up as we go forward. But I think the boys are ready to go, kind of know what's at stake, what our goals are, game in and game out, and what they want by the end of this.
What do you think would be a win for your team this year? Not just in terms of record, but what are the goals that you guys have set for your program? Where are you taking this group?
The biggest thing is, like we talked about a couple of years ago, having those winning records. We're not as much on the record as far as we would like the playoffs to be something that is an every year thing. It's not, are we going to make the playoffs this year? It's going to be when we make the playoffs this year. And last year, getting the playoffs, going to play Iowa City Regina was the first step of that. Obviously, it's this game in and game out of being in tune with what game's going on, what the film's looking like. But just having these guys grow, especially as they're young, is going to be a fun thing to kind of see them get working at it, working a little harder, understanding the little things of if I'm getting blocked this way. And I think they took a big step of that last night. And I think as the year goes on, you're going to see them grow and get some wins under their belt.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the work you've put in through the week and things like that. Did you guys have a scrimmage? What does your summer look like? What camps do you guys do? Do you do like 7-on-7 stuff, or what does the prep look like coming into the season?
This year we went and did some 7-on-7 with Davis County, so worked with them a little bit. We didn't do any camps this year, just after losing so many seniors, and then kind of trying to, I wouldn't call it a rebuild, but just kind of reloading what we can have and where people are going to be at. So we did some 7-on-7. We have a sophomore quarterback, so it's his first varsity start last night also. So I think that was a big thing. But those guys just working together, just 7-on-7 stuff. We did scrimmage Columbus. They came down and we came up and we did some scrimmage with them. A coach on the staff I played football at Penn with, so kind of reached out and got that together so they could have a scrimmage. We could have a scrimmage. I felt like that went really well. Sometimes I thought that scrimmage part, some of the guys got after a little bit better than we had. It showed a little bit better at the scrimmage than we did last night. But I think as far as shaking out where people are going to go, where they're going to play at, that helped out quite a bit for us.
Having a young group, sometimes leadership can be an issue. Do you have 1, 2, 3 leaders on the team? Are they upperclassmen, the underclassmen? What does that look like in terms of culture in your program?
I think the big thing is we have Cale Riley. He's our Mike linebacker, our fullback. He has really been a leader throughout this summer, making sure kids are where they're supposed to be, out weightlifting, giving rides, that kind of stuff. Last night we were down. We didn't play last night because of being sick, so that took a little bit of a hit for us. Corbin has been on the line when it comes to offensive, defensive line. He's really stepped up this year to understand that he's that guy, and kind of fitting in that role a little bit now and taking that over. And again, we have a couple freshmen. I was really pleased with Kenton Stout last night. There were times after I'm doing a defensive huddle, he's still getting those guys going, cheering them on into halftime, trying to rally them up on the field. And he took all my calls stepping in for Cale last night. So I thought that was a big growth for him. It's his first year at our school and our program. So for him to take my calls every play, I thought really helped him grow quite a bit.
So moving into next week, who's your opponent and what is your prep going to look like for them? What do you take away from this game into next week, and how do you lay that out for the crew?
We play Sheraton next week. They played Davis County this last week, and biggest thing is, with the Monday, we'll get together Monday. Tuesday, the JV team has to go down and play against North Mahaska, so we'll try to work around that. But the biggest thing is just taking away from some of the little things, reminding them first step, that kind of stuff. If they see different blitzes, the biggest thing is going to Sheraton. They're always a pretty physical team, so definitely being ready for that, know where we're going to go. But just trying to fine-tune some of our special team stuff, where we're going. I thought we did a pretty good job as the game went on late in the game, but then when you're down a little bit like that, it starts to get a little, we had a couple interceptions, a couple fumble recoveries, so it's not that we didn't do that stuff like we talked about, like, 43-0 looks, when you just read it, like, oh, man. But there was some good stuff that we had some flashes where we were coming off the edge and sacking the quarterback, so it was just things isn't really far away. So just getting our mindset ready of, hey, trust the process, next step, and we're going to be okay going forward.
Yeah, I think you're going to have those things when you lose. I think you said 12 seniors from last year's team. You're going to have some cobwebs to blow off. You're going to have some guys in different positions, maybe just timing and little things are off that can come around in a big way from week 2 to week 3. You mentioned a JV game on Monday night. Having such a young crew on the field at the varsity level, what does that do to the JV look?
Well, when we only have 30 kids out, so a lot of those guys that played a little bit on the varsity side are going to play a little bit both ways in order to have that JV schedule. JV is something that obviously every coach wants, every team wants. That's what's going to help build for the future. So that schedule is who can play, who and where can we play. We can also find some guys that step in different positions. We have a whole new running back crew this year with Garrett Toller. He's a senior, but he's never played running back. But last night he had to start that position. So it's just kind of trying to find those guys for the future, for later in the season, or just to get guys breaks.
Now, do you guys put a lot of emphasis on lower level games? The JV games, freshman games, junior high, and maybe even lower in like YSF league, that sort of thing. How's your turnout there? What does the future look like for EBF?
As far as junior high, we have a big number of kids when it comes to 7th and 8th grade. Some guys who want to play, want to hit. This year we got 2 new coaches down there in the junior high level. So they've been really working with us as a staff. They're there on a Friday night, taking care of that stuff, but just learning those little things to help. So when the same terminology comes up, and I think that's going to be a big thing for our future also, it's just working closer and closer with those guys. Again, a lot of those guys are in 8th grade, 7th grade are wrestlers again. So it's a lot of physical kids that want to be that way, and they play every sport. Those junior high boys right now all play baseball. A lot of them play wrestle, basketball, do track. So I think just being around each other, being around some of the high school guys is really going to help that going forward.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming in, Coach. I'm sure we'll have you on again, hopefully in the near future, and we'll be talking about EBF victories at that point.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, appreciate it, Ryan. Thank you. That's our first EBF coach to be on the show. So appreciate Ryan making the trip to Sigourney and being on the show this morning. We're doing the sports section live from Brothers Market in downtown Sigourney. We've got Coach Jared Jensen coming up next. Let's take a look at our area scoreboard. It's brought to us by Sheets Chiropractic. As we talked to Coach Clint Weber earlier, Pekin beat up on Cardinal last night, 76-0. You saw that live here on Steve Steve Shetler Media, as you will Pekin football all season long on Steve Shetler Media, Facebook and YouTube. Also, last night we had PCM beating Sigourney Keota 54-14. It was Southeast Warren over Montezuma 50-44. Midland beat EV 19-14. It was Belle Plaine outscoring HLVTC 45-24. On the second page of our scoreboard, North Mahaska, as we just talked, beat EBF 43-0. It was Washington over Oskaloosa 21-14. Ottumwa over Keokuk 47-26, and Albia gets by Centerville 13-6. Those are our area teams that we cover here on Steve Shetler Media. Now, also, just a reminder, coming up tomorrow, I'll be asking for some nominees. We're going to get back into the swing of things with our Athlete of the Week. Let's see here if I can bring up the right graphic here. We'll be doing our Keokuk County Hospital and Clinic's Athlete of the Week. We'll be looking for nominees. Now, obviously, Will Adam from Pekin will be among those nominees for the Athlete of the Week. We'll be looking at football and volleyball and cross country, and I don't know if there's any other sports going on this fall that I'm overlooking, but if you have a nominee, make sure you get those in. Of course, we've got the Athlete of the Week. We'll have the Team of the Week, sponsored by Kelly Style State Farm. So Team and Athlete of the Week nominees, get those in tomorrow. I'll make a Facebook post here on Steve Shetler Media. We'll be doing that all season long. I'll throw up one more picture here real quick. I did get a chance last night to deliver the big championship gold belt to our Athlete of the Year from 23-24. Addison Adam was at the Pekin Cardinal game last night. Addison, an Cardinal track star, and she won that whole tournament. You can see her holding the title belt there. She made the trip back and forth between the Cardinal sideline to the Pekin press box last night. She was out of breath. That gold belt was so heavy for Addison. Addison's not the biggest girl there is, but she was huffing and puffing carrying that belt around. So glad to meet Addison last night and to be able to announce her over the PA system as our Athlete of the Year. All right, let's take it back to Andy, who is being joined by Coach Jensen. Andy, take it away.
All right, Coach, last night, 54-14. Needless to say, not the result that we wanted, at least as far as number goes. I'm going to dub this the good, the bad, the ugly game. This is the Clint Eastwood Western of debuts. I saw some good things. I saw some bad things, and the ugly thing was the score. But what do you take away from the game like this, Coach? First game of the year against a really high-quality opponent, PCM Mustangs.
You know, I think going into it, we knew this was probably going to be the best team we face this year. Maybe the whole year, even if, we get that opportunity to get to the Dome. And with what they had returning last year and not losing a ton and knowing their JV team, they were pretty loaded, bringing those guys into the varsity level, we knew it was going to be tough sledding. But what I think that the thing that makes me the most happiest is we didn't quit. It was 14-0 right out the gate. We finally find a way to, put a drive together, score. And from there it kind of they scored a couple more times, 34-7 at half. You could just be done, but our kids weren't. We just we've been in this situation before. We've been 0-1, then went out. We've been 0-2, then went out. And that's what happens when you load your schedule up. We're not playing cupcakes. We've got 3 games right out the gate that are going to be 3 of the toughest teams we face all year long. I think we can see a lot of growth with what we were able to do. Offensively, I felt like we were putting some drives together. Then we'd get behind the chains a little bit. We had some picks, but we could see the pieces are there. This is darn near a whole new look football team. With the seniors we lost last year, I think there's maybe only 4 or 5 juniors that were starting that had that experience. Everybody else is new, fresh faces that have not had a varsity experience. And to play a team like PCM right out the gate when you haven't had an opportunity to feel what it's like to play at that high caliber of football. It's definitely a rude awakening, and that's what we got last night. But I'm proud of our guys. We could see, we know what we're doing. We're attempting to get it done. Last night, their size up front, their physicality, their nastiness, definitely hindered our ability to do what we want to do on both sides of the ball.
I noticed the size thing out of the gate, the eye test, just walking out on the field or, watching the boys come out. And I said, man, these are some big dudes. And I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about PCM Mustangs and giving those guys, clipboard fodder or whatever, that sort of thing. But they were big dudes, and they played a really tough game last year. We lost that by a 7-point score. And like you say, they were young, and we knew this was going to be a gauntlet first 2-3 games. And so, you mentioned that we don't return a whole lot of starters, but we're not a young team either.
Right.
We are a relatively veteran team. I think I was looking across the line, and you have one junior.
Yep.
Owen Minky on the line. How do you think the line played last night?
Surprisingly, going from our scrimmage to this week, I felt like they made a huge growth. I thought they played well last night. I mean, we were getting holes, we were getting yards. It's just when we got through, there was so many other bodies coming that we just couldn't find a way to break it. I thought we ran the ball hard. When we did get creases, we went. But I thought our line did a good job for being so undersized compared to what they were going against. I thought we got movement. Now, a lot of times, teams we're going to face, we're going to get that movement 3, 4, 5 yards, a push 3, 4, 5 yards. Last night it was maybe 1 or 2 yards, but it wasn't like they were across our side of the line of scrimmage all night, so we were fighting up front. We were sustaining our side of the line of scrimmage, just maybe not getting as much drive as you would hope. But I would, a lot of new bodies. There was Owen's the only returning starter.
Greiner.
Oh, well,
Brody.
He's at an end.
At the end.
But
Yeah,
our 5 linemen, he was the only returning starter last year. Billy Kindred ended up starting when Renner tore his ACL. So, 2 of those guys have that experience. The other 3 don't. Brody at strong end has that experience. Jace at quick end doesn't. So, of our 7 bodies up there, 3 of them really have experience varsity play, and it's going to be a learning experience. And we told them last night the biggest growth you're going to make is from this game to next week, and we expect for them to step up and take that challenge on. And I don't. This game is not going to define our season. We've been here before. We know what's at stake these first 3 games, and really it's pride. We might have lost, but I feel like our pride was there, and we continue to compete. And we just know week 4 is when our season really, really starts. We want to win every game we play, but these first 3 games, if you lose them, it doesn't affect your ultimate goals down in the season once you get to district play in your class.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to the game real quick here for a second. Opening kickoff, I think it was the Robbins kid, Caden Clarahan has a touchdown-saving tackle as the place kicker. From that point forward, they ran a no-huddle, up-tempo thing and really kind of took it to the defense. Were you expecting that no-huddle look out of the gate from PCM?
We saw the freshman game prior, and they were trying to speed things up and a little no-huddle. Throughout the week, we hadn't really talked a ton about that. We always talk about it a little bit. If they start hurrying up, if we don't get a call in, we know what to call for the guys that are out there. So I don't think that necessarily impeded our ability to stop them. They were just dominant up front. I mean, their 5 linemen, their tight end this year was one of their starting linemen last year. Their fullback or H-back, another dude. So they're bringing 7 dudes at you that are, I don't know, 230, 240, 250 up to probably 275, and we were just undermatched and undersized. And I thought our interior guys didn't make many plays, but what we tell them, you start getting doubled, you just fall down, you make piles. And I thought they did a pretty good job of that. That Robbins is a special player. So no matter where the hole is supposed to be or what he sees is open, he's going to attack it, and he did a good job last night of doing that. The quarterback, the zone read stuff, 2 poles and 2 huge plays. So it was just, those guys were clicking on all cylinders from what they had last year, and we were kind of that new look. But like you said, we're not underclassmen, so we're not going to take this like, oh well, we're young. We were game inexperienced maybe, but we've got veterans. We've got 25 juniors and seniors. A lot of teams have 25 just varsity guys, and that's 9 through 12. So we've got to continue to learn. These guys have been in the system. They know what's going on. They know the expectations, and we just expect to see growth these next few weeks and just fine-tune and find who we really are. Because I think every year your identity can change, and I think we're still trying to find, what's our true identity this year, and we'll continue to try to find that and coach these guys up and make sure we put them in the best position possible to be successful.
Along those lines of finding identity, I noticed last night in your first offensive series, you ran a little different look than what we've seen over the last couple of years. Maybe a little bit more pass-oriented, a little less run-oriented. How do you feel that series went? Did you see what you were looking for? Was that a test to see how it would go and then kind of build into the next, or what were your thoughts as far as that series goes?
Yeah, I think any team that plays us, they're preparing for one thing, and that's our single wing. And we've used that Eagle package, the last few years, but our heart and soul is in that single wing. But I thought, hey, you know what? Let's get a look. This is probably something they haven't spent a ton of time on. Let's get in this package and see what happens. And we had a completion right away. Gained a little confidence there. I thought we did a decent job running the ball. But ultimately, what did we revert back to? And that's our single wing. But I think that can be a package with the guys we have out there. Split out. Ike Molnix is out at X. Bruns is in the slot. Brady's at our H back there, or wing back. So, I think it's an opportunity for us to, maybe that hard nose, tough nose. Play isn't necessarily our identity, but with the athletes we have, we feel like we can maybe use that a little more to our advantage. Just something teams aren't really spending a lot of time on, because just talking to other coaches when they prepare for us, it's a headache. And okay, they run this package 5 or 6 times a game. We'll just line up and play against that, but we're gonna fine tune and understand how to stop the single wing. And took a look at that. Took a look at right opposite a little bit, just to see how they reacted. And I know as soon as we got in right opposite, I could see their eyes and trying to figure out. They knew the strength was over here, but all the backs were over here. And it's just something to throw on film. Something that we've been working on in practice. Let's take a look at it and see how effective it is, and understand what things we feel like we can really use throughout the season to our advantage.
Yeah, I thought once you got back in a single wing, maybe on the second series, is where you could see the comfort come back in. It felt like the line clicked a little bit better, and as we've talked, the line is a veteran group, but they lack in game experience, and with that offense, it's all about timing. And I felt like the timing was off at times, but when it was on, it was pretty good against a much larger, maybe even more superior, defensive line and defense linebacker. I mean, the core was pretty solid. I mean, if you weren't at the game, if you look at that team looks about as complete opponent that I have seen probably since we played Van Meter a few years back. That was a solid group of guys that are going to go a deep run in Class 2A this year. So props to those guys on that win. But let's talk for a second about your center, Landon Greiner, who I thought did really nice last night, and Braden Wood at your spin back position. How do you feel both of those guys play? That's kind of a tandem duo.
Yeah, two new bodies. They snapped in JV together last year, but Landon had a tough task. They put Big 74, who's 6'5", 275 right over him, and just tried to hammer, and I thought he did a pretty good job of just understanding what was coming and not letting that affect his ability to get the snap back. I thought the snaps were really good. We may have had a few that were a little low or a little off, but I thought his accuracy on his snaps to get him where we need to get him to keep that timing was there 98% of the time. Braden, I thought, really nervous. You could just visually see his nervousness, and nerves are good as long as you allow them to take you in the right direction. And I thought he commanded things well. Threw a few picks, but I think a couple of those we talked, and if we don't try to air it out and we just pipe it to the receiver, behind the linebackers and in front of those safeties, those are completed balls, not intercepted balls. So, he had some struggles through the air. I'm not going to put that all on him. Our offensive line was not able to, when we were passing early, was not able to protect him, a whole lot. There was always one guy right there in his face, and so we've got some things to work on there. But I think there was ups and downs for everybody we had out there. I think there was plays that people just looked like they didn't really know what was going on, or just made a mistake from what their key or read was supposed to be. And other times, it was like, holy smokes, man, did you see that? So like you said early, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and facing a team that is the caliber of PCM, we saw what Van Meter was 2 years ago, and we were nowhere near their level, and we had a really talented football team. PCM took those guys down to the wire last year, lost by 10 in the quarterfinals to go to the Dome, and return the majority of their guys, So we understand what kind of caliber they are. We're not there yet, but we just need to keep climbing, keep stacking those bricks, keep putting in the work, and we know these 3 games right out the gate are going to pay off once it gets to our district schedule.
Yeah, you mentioned there was no quit in the guys, and I noticed that as well. I thought maybe the first half we were a little bit quiet, a little bit tentative in terms of vocal leadership. At halftime, I could really tell that you guys talked to him about that, because in the third quarter, fourth quarter, we still had guys on the sideline pumping that group up, getting behind it vocally. How do you feel the vocal leadership is on this team? Do you have a vocal leader? Do you have multiple vocal leaders? What does that look like for this version of SK?
Yeah, I mean, we've got some vocal leaders. A lot of guys just lead by example, and I think that's all right too. But you need that spark. You can't have the coaches be the ones that are always the vocal ones. You've got to find those guys that are willing to say what they're willing to say. But you don't want guys that are just saying stuff because they think they're the leader, and there's kind of a fine line there, But I think a lot of our guys might not say a whole lot, but when they do say something, people understand this is important, So I think we can definitely get better at just being vocal amongst each other, Isaac Bruns does a lot of the when we're breaking down, he's saying a lot of words. I think there's other guys like Caden Clarahan who doesn't say a whole lot, but when he does say something, he means it. And same with Brady Clark, quiet kid, but when he steps up and says something, guys listen. So, we've seen it before. Evan Vitito, the kid doesn't say a word, but when he does say something, you sit there, you listen, and you let it sink in. But another guy that just led by example, your son Aiden, okay, didn't say a whole lot, but when he did, people listened, and he led by example. So I think vocal leadership is a big part of it, but if you don't have guys just walking the walk, people aren't going to listen to them anyway. So I'm all right with guys that are just, I'm leading by example. I might not say a whole lot, but my example is speaking for myself. But you definitely do need some of those guys to kind of get out of that comfort zone, and when things aren't going well, get it nipped in the bud and get guys turned around.
Yeah, you're spot on. The good, the bad, and the ugly last night. Like you say, Van Meter, PCM. There's a lot of parallels to those things coming through here. And I think for the casual football fan, maybe somebody that doesn't watch a lot of that, they might look at that score and say 54-14, man, you guys just got boat raced. But I don't feel that way about that game last night. I think you have a lot to build on off of that. What does your next week of prep look like? I definitely don't think you have any quitting your kids. They've seen it before, as you've mentioned. What does your week of prep look like next week preparing for Mid-Prairie, correct?
Mediapolis.
Meepo.
Yep,
Sorry,
Meepo. Well, hopefully it's obviously a little cooler next week. This week was a scramble with, we're getting out of school early. We're having to push practice back later till 6 instead of 4, having to shorten our periods, shorten our practice time, give a lot more water breaks, shed some of our equipment to try to stay cool. And, this week I think we can kind of get back into that weekly groove, that consistency, knowing Tuesday we know this is what we're doing. Wednesday we know what this we're doing. Thursday we know we're just fine-tuning all that, making sure we're where we need to be. And, it's going to be a lot of corrections. We really didn't have much of any individual time to work on stuff we saw from the scrimmage heading into this week 1 because the heat didn't allow and the time didn't allow. So we were pretty limited. Usually we go 15-minute periods. We had to kind of shut it down to about 10-minute periods, add about, 20 minutes of water breaks within the 2-hour practice. So, get some consistency, get back to the norm, and just keep the foot on the gas, keep grinding, build off what was successful and try to correct the mistakes that didn't go your way.
So what are you anticipating from Mediapolis? They've been a really talented group, over the last handful of years. Every year that I've been watching them, we've had some really epic battles between SK and Mediapolis. I'm expecting no different this coming Friday. Nope. What are you expecting to see out of these guys?
They're going to be a well-coached football team. They're going to have athletes. They're going to have big guys up front. They're kind of similar to us. Okay, you lose some great guys, but that next core group of kids are ready to step in there. So I last year we ended up getting them 21 zip. The year before I believe was the overtime and the playoffs. So we've I don't know, the past 6, 7, 8 years. There's been a few games that were lopsided, but a lot of times it's a competitive football game. So we understand that. It's going to be a 4-quarter football game, and you shouldn't go into any game thinking it's just going to be a cakewalk and you're going to be done at halftime and let everybody else play. And our mindset's going to be 4 quarters of Cobra football, and they're licking their chops to get back at us. After the last couple seasons of getting them, they're going to be ready to go, and we're going to have to be ready to go as well.
So I asked the other coaches, what are the goals for the season? I was looking at scores last night, and this means nothing, but I did notice that I think every team in our district lost their opener last night. What are the goals for SK this year? District title, we're 4 in a row so far. Yeah. Obviously, I know you're shooting for 5. Yeah. What's the next step above that?
I think, in the last handful of years, 4 district championships, one semifinal appearance, 2 quarterfinal appearances, and then last year we bowed out in the second round to Dyke, and we know how talented they were. A district championship is ultimately that first step of the goal, but you got to take care of every team in front of you to get that district championship. And then, ultimately, and a lot of teams talk about it, a lot of programs say it, everybody's goal is to win a state championship, but how many teams out there, when they say that, truly, really believe they have that opportunity? And I think we are one that does. Have we gotten there? No. Have we been close? Yes. But, we continue to try to build and build and build and eventually break through and get to that championship game. So that goal, I believe, is truly in our reach. And that's just something that we've got a long ways to go before we go there, but that's the ultimate goal for us, and it's not just the talk of we want a state championship. We feel like, after the past few seasons, we've inched closer and closer and closer, and just, you face the wrong team at the wrong time. Van Meter took us out in the quarters, won a state championship in 1A. OABCIG in the Dome took us out. And Dyke has taken us out the last 2 years, and they're a perennial team. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, a Dome team. Last year ended up losing to the eventual state champions. So, you're talking about some teams right around you that those are the teams that are either winning it or getting beat by the team that's winning it, and we're right there. So, what's that next step? What's the evolution of our program, of our team, to kind of get us to where we really want to be? We're getting close to that point, but we just haven't gotten that opportunity yet.
Yeah, you mentioned all those teams. You're bringing back so many memories. OABCIG, watching Cooper DeJean in the Dome. Now he's playing in the NFL, and that Van Meter team, who is probably one of the most complete teams that I've ever watched play football. And then Dyke New Hartford twice in the last handful of years here. And Dyke has really had our number. Looking back to last year, it's really disappointing going out in the second round. I know that team had higher aspirations, but a team that has really, I think, more than read your mind. During that game. How do you get over that hurdle of taking those guys out, Coach, if you get the chance?
I hate to say it, definitely send the play in with a body rather than signaling it. I think they may have been taking some tips from some of those NFL and college teams that were sending guys to re-signals and stuff like that. But you've got to just find a way. We have to understand, why are they successful? What are they doing to put themselves in that situation? And we've got to gravitate towards that. And I think, when I think Dyke New Hartford, the first thing that comes to mind is physicality, and it helps that they have a ton of athletes everywhere. But their line up front, every year we've gone against them, I felt like our line has been dominant all year long. And then we face those guys, and we're not as dominant as they are. So, whatever they're drinking up there, whatever they're doing, to kind of ingrain that physicality in them, and we are a physical football team, but how do you get to that level of physicality? And I think that's football. We all know physicality is number one. If you're not a physical football team, you will not be a successful football team. If you're a physical football team, you can lack in other areas and still be really successful. And we just got to try to find a way to get to the level of physicality that those teams are playing at, and tie that with the uniqueness of what we do. That could be a deadly force.
Yeah, I've yet to see an interview with a coach where they say we want to be less physical than our opponents. So it is absolutely coaching cliche. 2 quick questions for you. We're going to go off script a little bit here. Not that we have a script, but maybe a little bit more fun question. So I'm riding home last night with my beautiful wife, Erin, and she goes, "Why don't you ask the coach a question that we all want to hear?" And I said, "Oh boy, okay." I said, "Well, what do you got? Fire it for me." And I'll ask it. I'm not afraid. This is not sanctioned.
No.
So let's fire away, Coach. And I watched her last night. She had a little notepad and a pen, and she was scribbling away. Yeah. So we're going to dub this segment Erin Asks, for those of you watching. So this is the one she came up with. I read it this morning. I did not read it last night. But she says, "What is going on in the locker room right before you guys come out in formation?" I thought it'd be something else. I thought it'd be way off the wall, but it's actually, I think, a pertinent question. What do you guys do in that locker room before you come out? What's it look like?
We obviously our locker room's small. We've got 55 guys. We're not all fit in there, so we use the wrestling room. We use the gym. I mean, typically the older guys are going in the wrestling room. They whether they have headphones in or they've got music out of a speaker going, they're in there preparing themselves, kind of just enclosed in the dungeon, just preparing mentally. A lot of the younger guys gravitate towards the gym, kind of do the same thing in there. And, we usually come out 10 minutes before we're going to go out. Coaches are typically in the coach's office, still just continuing to go through stuff, talk through things. And, when we go out there, music is going, and by then they're all in the gym. Music is going. I spend a little bit of time just kind of, getting away from everybody else as well, just like the kids are, and preparing my mind, those last couple minutes before I speak to them. But we bring them together. Coaches have their words with the kids, try to get them fired up, and then we give the We Are SK 2 times, Cobras on 3, they head right out the door, get lined up, and then we're on our march to the field.
Yeah, that's a cool tradition. I really like that march. I really like the We Are SK bit, even though I'm not a big Penn State fan. I'm not a Penn State fan at all. Last question, Shelton, from me. Along those lines, what do you do to prep for the game? You're in the Crown Vic or the Grand Marquis. I don't know what that baby was, the silver bullet. But, you
Lincoln
got
Town Car, baby.
Lincoln Town Car
Yes,
in
sir.
style.
Smooth ride.
What do you got in that CD, player?
Yep.
What are you bumping? I know you're a music guy,
Yep.
Jared. What is it? What are you listening to?
Yeah, I'm still. Well, I mean, now it's old school. Back when I was growing up, it was the in thing. But I'm a hip hop guy. I listen to a wide range. I mean, I'll listen to. There's times that we want some heavy metal. I grew up Metallica. Megadeth, things like that when I was a little younger. Kind of the evolution of everything. 90s and 2000, early 2000s. Music I think was. I don't listen to anything now. I can't really stomach it, but I'll still listen to some of the old school hip hop, old school. Not necessarily death metal, but a little bit of heavy metal. Change it up a little bit. So, a little bit of everything, but I gravitate a little more towards hip hop side. And
Yeah. You got one jam, Master P, Notorious B.I.G., something along those lines.
Master P. Yep. I mean that's going real old
It is,
school,
isn't it?
but
It
yeah,
is, yeah.
absolutely. I think I'm a little more of a West Coast hip hop guy. I like some East Coast stuff. Some southern hip hop. I mean, just a little bit of range of everything, man. You know the hits as well as I do,
brother.
and I'm sure
do.
you're still listening to them.
Yeah.
This show has taken a turn that I never,
Yeah.
ever imagined. Two white Southeast Iowa guys talking rap on a sports show.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I'm sending Brennan my playlist,
Oh,
It's like, here you go, brother.
Yeah.
He goes, I need something. I was listening to, I think I had Pantera on.
Yep,
I was,
okay,
I was,
yep,
we were
Pantera,
walking around. I mean, if you lifted weights in the
Disturbed.
90s,
Yep.
and you didn't listen to Walk, you weren't trying.
Yep,
so I hit him
absolutely.
with that one and some other selects.
Yep.
So I love that stuff. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate you answering the question,
Yep.
question, Coach.
Absolutely.
And can't wait until next week so we can get that W.
Absolutely.
And more Aaron asks.
Or Aaron asks. And I'm going to take them from other moms, too. We're going to get some
go.
questions, so
There
we're going to
you
get to
go.
the
Nothing
bottom of
too
these
hard,
things.
guys. Moms, please have my back.
There you go.
All right, we do thank Coach Jensen for coming in today. We thank Coach Weber for being our leadoff guest from Pekin, and, of course, Coach Jackson from EBF. Now, I did want to point out we do have a new sponsor specifically here on the sports section, is the Cobra Club, which supports SK football. So you can support the Cobra Club by calling 319-461-0060 for more information and maybe making a donation for the Cobra Club, who helps support the SK Cobras. So make sure you take advantage of that. Aaron. I called you Aaron. It's Andy McGuire. Let's go back to Andy for just a second. Andy, a great show today. We had a lot of great area coaches. Of course, Coach Weber and Coach Jensen will be regulars during the football season, and we're going to try to rotate in area coaches every week. Now, you and I were also talking beforehand. We're also going to try to bring back the Pick'ems. Alan and Bruce were our hosts last year at this time, and we did some pick'ems. I think we're going to try to incorporate that in one way or another. We're still kind of in talks on how we're going to do that. But I don't know. Any overall thoughts on that, or just on football in general? What do we got?
In general.
Yeah. What do we got? Iowa. We got Iowa today at 11.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then Iowa State this afternoon at 2:30.
Okay.
Those are the big two. Obviously, we're going to be pulling for both of those teams, or most people will. I don't pull for Iowa State. No disrespect meant, but I'm an Iowa guy. I bleed black and gold. So, and I sent Aiden chose to go up to Ames, so he's going to have a ball this afternoon in Jack Trice Stadium. So I wish him the best of luck. Sorry, Cyclone fans, that I'm not rooting for you, but have fun. But yeah, I think Pick'ems would be great. And if we could figure out a way to get some guest pickers on here, a little college game day style, maybe we can find some local celebrities, bring Alan and Bruce out of the woodwork, out of the retirement home, and get them in here and maybe make a pick, see those cut-off tees and that barbed wire tattoo again. Love to see those guys come back in. maybe get Rick Landgrebe up here, maybe some others, and see what we can get. Maybe land an Ashton Kutcher sighting or something like that,
There
Steve
you go.
Shetler.
Caitlin Clark, Coach Bluter, something, whatever. Whoever and whatever. It doesn't take much to be a celebrity on Steve Shetler Media.
Well, yeah,
we're
I
not
mean,
picky.
Caitlin Clark isn't like the biggest name ever, so right now. But
All right.
Anyway, yeah, that'll be fun.
Andy, appreciate your time. And, of course, we appreciate Brothers Market here in Sigourney for being our host venue and our headline sponsor for the sports section. We've been doing this a year now. So, we celebrate 1 year of the sports section here at Brothers Market at 118 South Main in Sigourney. Again, go to their website, download their app, and take advantage of all the great deals that Brothers Market gives you. That'll do it for the sports section here on Steve Shetler Media. We'll see you again next week here on Steve Shetler Media.